Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome everyone to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thank you guys for joining us as always. We had a lot of good boxing last weekend and some good stuff coming up as well. Now, joining us today is 154-pound contender Erickson the Hammer Lubin. Lubin, of course, takes on Jeison Rosario Saturday, June 26th on SHOWTIME PPV. Also with us today, former heavyweight contender and new trainer of Deontay Wilder, Malik Scott. Plus, we're going to take a look at all the action from last Saturday. And in today's toe-to-toe section, we'll break down the next three PBC cards. But let's start with one beyond those three. Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, July 24th. Deontay gave his first interview over the weekend, sat down with 78 Sports and discussed the arbitration, training, Tyson Fury, of course, revealed some interesting nuggets and basically addressed all the chatter. Mike, what were your takeaways from this interview?
Well, overall, he sounded like a guy who's determined to give it everything he has, win or lose. He even used that term, win or lose. He's not, the impression that I get, he's not going in there to roll over just to show up for a payday, anything like that. He's pulling out all stops to try to turn the tables on Fury. And that's pretty much all we can ask of a guy, right? Remember, this couldn't be more enormous for Wilder. If he wins this fight, he's a conquering hero. He's bigger than he's ever been, right? But if he loses, especially if he's stopped again, it's going to be tough for him to climb his way back to the top. So this is just absolutely pivotal, enormous in his career. The question is, will all of his effort, going into this fight be enough? We'll see. But it seems to me going into the fight that he's in a good frame of mind. He's working hard, doing what he needs to do.
Yeah, and you nailed it. I think a lot of folks don't realize how monumental it would be if Deontay Wilder won this third fight and did so via knockout. That would be momentous, and I think that the magnitude of the situation isn't lost on him. I really like the vibe we got from Deontay and trainer Malik Scott during the interview with 78 Sports. I loved hearing about their history and how it all came together. I also think that was great it was good for Deontay to address the media and the approach they've taken with him. The echo chamber lives on. I don't know if it's laziness or, the fact that a lot of these guys are beholden to specific promoters, but you had one writer speculating that Wilder was depressed, a slew of them saying that his silence meant he didn't want a third fight, and then, of course, the whole debacle where they pretended, he really wants step-aside money. So it was good to see Deontay address all that and point out, hey, some of you guys have my number and you never bothered to use it. It's no wonder so many athletes today don't want to talk to the media. Now, that aside, I really like the focus, that they have on the fight. Wilder says he's had 3 training camps, and we'll get into that in a second. He hasn't stopped training. Malik Scott says he built a whole facility at his house to prepare for this fight. He's got a cryogenic chamber. He's had doctors check out everything. He's fully healed up. So, Mike, no matter who you're picking to win, it's clear Wilder's leaving no stone unturned. But I thought something interesting that Deontay and Malik Scott mentioned was the possibility of another trainer joining the team. What were your thoughts on that?
I don't know what to think of that, to be honest. He obviously meshes well with Scott, but they're friends, and it's a little bit interesting because he knocked out Scott, but apparently they're very close. But Scott doesn't have that much experience as a head trainer. Maybe they bring in a veteran guy, a guy who's been there for a long time. That guy might see things or add things that Scott, Wilder, and JD's can't. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. That would sort of like complete the camp.
Yeah, it seems that way. Now, speaking of camps, 3 camps, been training since July. What did you make of that?
Well, that goes back to what I said earlier. I'm not in his camp. I'm just going by my gut feeling here. It seems to me that he's working hard, getting fit, doing everything he can do to give himself a chance to win, the third fight. That obviously includes going over the second fight, going over the video of the second fight, determining what went wrong and making adjustments. Maybe that's where a third set of eyes can help most, is, sort of figuring out what went wrong, what they could do, what changes they could make. This is one of the most interesting aspects, maybe the most interesting aspect of this fight, to see what changes they make, whether they're able to make them.
Yeah, that's a good point regarding a fresh set of eyes. And I mean, I'm sure they've been poring over Wilder Fury 1, Wilder Fury 2. Now, an interesting thing about those two fights was that in the first fight, Deontay weighed 212.5 pounds. In the rematch, he was at 230. In your opinion, what's his ideal weight?
Well, my general philosophy, no matter what weight class the fighter is in, is he or she should fight at a comfortable, natural weight. And I think that applies to this fight. Don't worry too much about weight. That said, if I were advising Wilder, I would suggest that he eat well. I seem to recall JD's telling us once that Wilder has trouble keeping weight on.
Yeah.
It's just his body. You mentioned he weighed 212.5 for the first Fury fight. If Fury weighs what he did in the second fight, which was 273, that would be a 60-pound difference.
Yeah.
That's a big gap. What you mentioned, Wilder weighed 231 for the second fight. Maybe that was a little too heavy for him. I don't know. I think maybe around 225 might be good for him. But again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Just where you feel comfortable, where you feel strong, and just roll with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it might have been that he just wasn't as accustomed to holding that 230. Maybe he's better this time around. I don't know, but I remember he weighed 223.5 for Dominic Brazil, and
right.
he looked big, and he was excellent in the ring that night. Still had the same speed, hasn't lost his power. And I think, against Fury, you don't want to lose your legs. You want to have that mobility. Fury's going to try and lean on him, and use his weight on him. So we'll see what Deontay does. Now, in some other news, we've got the return of Floyd Mayweather this Sunday, June 6th, Showtime pay-per-view. Mayweather taking on social media sensation Logan Paul in an exhibition. Now, before we get into the main event, the fight that intrigues me the most on this card is former unified 154-pound world champion Jarrett Hurd taking on the tough Luis Arias. Been a long time since we've seen Hurd in the ring, February 2020. Mike, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I think it's a good matchup for Hurd's post-Julian Williams evolution. If you recall, he lost to Julian Williams.
Yeah.
So he's sort of rebuilding, still in that process. As you mentioned, Arias is a tough, capable guy who should push Hurd, which is exactly what he needs.
Yeah.
Arias went the distance with Danny Jacobs, and he drew with Gabriel Rosado. So
yep.
He's a pretty good fighter. He's not bad, which should make for an interesting fight. I think Hurd's goal right now is to continue to work on his game, and I think Arias is the right opponent for that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad you point out some of the names that Arias has faced, and he's, according to him, he recognizes that this may be it for him. That he's got to really step up. So I think we're gonna see the best Arias that we've ever seen. And as far as Hurd, I mean, he's had so much to overcome these past few months. The death of his father recently, and this will be his second fight with new trainer Kay Koroma. I mean, which Hurd do we see? The laid-back boxer or the swarming volume puncher? Maybe a bit of both against someone like Arias. If Hurd wins, who would you like to see him face next?
That depends on how he looks. I think if he wins and looks, really good doing it, he'd be ready to face a fellow contender. Imagine a fight between Hurd and Sebastian Fundora.
Yeah, man.
Or one with Jeison Rosario. Another guy I thought of was Patrick Teixeira. Could face Hurd in his comeback fight after Teixeira lost to Brian Castano. He's got options. I think all of these fights would be good.
Yeah, I love the Fundora fight. I mean, it's such an incredible matchup, and it's so fan-friendly. I don't believe Fundora is there yet, though. I do like perhaps the winner of Rosario versus Lubin, although they'll probably be vying for a world title shot, whoever the winner is. So maybe Hurd just jumps right into, a fight against the winner of Charlo versus Castano, the undisputed bout on July 17th. I mean, that would also be fan-friendly, but Hurd has options. Now, in the main event Sunday night, we've got the return of Floyd Mayweather, an 8-round exhibition against Logan Paul. Mike, we saw what happened when Logan's brother Jake snatched Mayweather's hat off Floyd's head, the joying on Showtime's All Access series. Is this beef real?
Well, I'm pretty sure Mayweather was didn't like the fact that Jake Paul took his hat, which turned into this huge thing. We talked about that earlier. But I don't believe he and Logan Paul share any animosity whatsoever. It's pay-per-view. It's more like professional wrestling than boxing. It's just theatrics to sell the fight. Both these guys are really good at marketing themselves. I want to add, I'm amazed that people buy into it, and they will in big numbers given both fighters' followings. I'll never understand why anyone would want to pay money to see two guys spar, especially when one of them essentially has no idea whatsoever he's doing in the ring. And honestly, I don't even mean to be that critical of it. I mean, if you find value in it, I say go for it. If you think you'll enjoy it, then go for it. I just don't get it. I just don't understand why you'd want to pay money to see guys spar. But I guess people are attracted to stars, and that's what these guys are.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question. I saw earlier today that there's going to be no scoring for this fight. However, knockouts are allowed, which is interesting for an exhibition. Do you expect a real fight to break out at some point?
I'm not sure how you define a real fight. I think it's just all up to Mayweather and what he wants to do. I think he's just going to toy with him and toy with him and toy with him. And then if he feels like he wants to knock him out, he'll just knock him out. It's like whatever Mayweather wants. I think it'll be a sparring session, but as you and I know, sparring sessions can get pretty hot and heavy.
Yeah, they can.
So I mean, it could happen. I mean, maybe just Logan Paul just goes nuts and just starts wailing away, and Mayweather will have no choice.
I suspect that's what he's going to do. Anyway.
Yeah, to defend himself. And if that happens, I feel bad for Logan Paul, but he's going to make a fortune, so I don't feel too bad for him.
Right, exactly. We'll see what happens. All right, it's time to bring in our first guest this week. He is a super welterweight contender who returns to the ring Saturday, June 26th against former unified champion Jeison Rosario in a world title eliminator that's live on Showtime pay-per-view. The Hammer, Erickson Lubin. Erickson, how has camp been ahead of your June 26th showdown versus Jeison Rosario?
Camp's been. I had a tremendous camp. I'm having a tremendous camp. I've been in the gym since my last fight. When we got the announcement that we were fighting Jeison Rosario, we just turned things up a notch and just did things the right way. But I'm having a tremendous camp right now, and I'm ready to fight it. Today.
Well, I'll be ready. I believe it because I'm not sure you and Coach Kevin Cunningham ever take a day off. It seems like even if you didn't have a fight coming up, you're always in the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my job. I get paid top dollar to, go in there and just, be in tip-top shape and get the fans, a show and just be the best me. So, Kevin, he's real strict on me, but he does things the right way. He don't just, we're not just on full go mode all the time because, we do everything the right way. He knows when I need a day off. He knows when, I need to turn things up. So, June 26th, this is going to be my best performance.
Very good. I presume you watched Rosario's fight against Jermell Charlo. What did you think of Rosario's performance?
He did all right. He did all right. I don't got much to say about it. I seen him. I want the Rosario that fought J-Rock. I want the top Rosario. I want the best Rosario to come in there June 26th. It's on pay-per-view, so, I want to give the fans what they want.
Do you think Rosario was doing anything to give Jermell trouble at all? And do you think his power was having an effect on the fight at all?
Sort of, kind of. I think so a little bit. I think, he applied some pressure that gave Jermell a little bit of trouble. He had to figure things out. He had to box a little bit more than usual. Yeah. I think he did all right, for the time being. But then, Jermell ended up double jabbing him and ended up pulling him out with a body shot, with a jab to the stomach.
Now you brought up. Well, so, you thought the knockdown was strange, you mean?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit strange. But before that, he's still down on the cards because he got dropped like twice before that.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Jermell was boxing him. Pretty decent.
Now, you brought up fighting on pay-per-view, State Farm Arena in Atlanta. I know, it's going to be a packed house in there. How excited are you knowing that you're going to have that kind of audience? I mean, a bunch of stars sitting ringside and so forth. How pumped are you for that?
I'm stoked, man. I'm excited. I fought Jorge Cota back in 2017 when Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia, when that fight was going on, and that was pretty big. And I can just imagine, we got the fans back. It's after Corona, so this is gonna be real big. You got stars like, you got Gervonta Davis and Mario Barrios going at it. So Tank brings the fans out. I got my fair share of fans coming out, and it's gonna be big. It's gonna be a real big night. It's gonna be a packed house, and I'm ready to perform and just give them what they want.
Now, you put on a show. You damn near stole the show against Cota in 2017. Does having that big audience give you extra motivation?
Yeah, of course it does. It definitely do. I got family, friends, fans in the crowd, and just knowing just them being out there and cheering me on, and every time I land a big shot, you hear the crowd roar, and that gives me energy. And then when I got somebody hurt, it helps me finish him.
Now, in your last fight, you fought Terrell Gausha, won a pretty clear decision. He did, however, land a big right hand late in the fight. It's been a long time since I think we've seen you hit that cleanly in the ring. Do you think dealing with that kind of shot helps you prepare for facing someone like Rosario?
Absolutely. Terrell's he's a skillful fighter. He's an Olympian. He comes from the same pedigree as me. I feel like that shot just woke me up and just had me tighten up on my defense a little bit better. I feel like he's a good fighter, but this fight we plan on doing things a lot different. We plan on being a lot sharper. We plan on being a lot stronger. Just everything just leveled up. Plan on taking it to another level.
Gotcha.
Going out there and looking spectacular.
Gotcha. Can you assess your performance against Gausha, like overall? Were pretty pleased with the way things went?
Yeah, of course. I came out with the victory. That's all that matters to me. Coming out with the victory and pretty, in clear fashion. I went out there and did what I had to do. Gausha, I felt like I was the faster fighter. I was faster than him. I was stronger than him. Because I came back in the 12th round and almost put him out. So all in all, it was a eliminator for the WBC title, and we went in there just to go and get the W, and that's what we did.
It seems to me that you're really in a groove since your setback a couple years ago now. Does it feel that way? Does it feel like you're really sort of peaking and you're in a groove?
Yeah. Even though I'm doing my thing right now, I'm still not even in my prime. I'm only getting better. So I feel like I'm just gonna continue getting better, and just by the time everyone looks up, I'll have already beaten all the top guys at 154 pounds. I don't care for no tune-up fights. Anybody that get me, I want it to be a significant win and to show just that I'm the best at 154 pounds.
Fantastic. Back to the upcoming fight. Given the difference between the style of Gausha and the style of Rosario, do you expect this one to be more explosive than the last one?
Yeah, I think so. 100%. I think Rosario takes way more chances than Gausha, and it's gonna be explosive, man. It really is. I definitely, I don't run from nobody. I don't. I like action. I like action-packed fights as well. But, we got a game plan. We're going to go out there and execute and, look our best.
Now, switching gears for a second, Erickson, you might possibly be the best basketball player amongst all the boxers out there right now. Did you play organized ball at some time?
Yeah, I did. I played in high school.
Okay.
I played a little bit after.
No,
yeah, can't nobody mess with me on a basketball court.
it's funny you say that, because I was going to ask you, have you played with any other boxers? Like, which ones have game? Like, have you played with others, or?
Yeah, I play with a few boxers. They can't mess with me though. I ain't gonna name drop, but just know that none of them can mess with me. Play with a lot of boxers.
Isn't Pacquiao supposed to be a decent basketball player?
That's they say.
Man,
Floyd
he's
too.
Trash. Trash. Oh, I actually played in the game with Floyd. I played in the celebrity basketball game with Floyd. He ain't do much. He ain't play too much.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, can't nobody mess with me, man.
I hear you.
So you were back to boxing. You were once the #1 prospect in the U.S. amateurs. You decided to turn pro and sign with Iron Mike Promotions. Can you talk about your relationship with Mike, how you met him, and so forth?
Back when I was in the amateurs at the USA training camp, they let in some guys. They were watching us spar, and I guess they were promoters. It was 2 promoters. They came in and watched me spar, and they talked to me a little bit after. They really enjoyed the sparring, and they told me that they held in Miami and that they wanted to talk to me. So I went over to Miami like that next week, spoke to them, because I'm not too far from Miami. And when I spoke to them, that's when Mike Tyson was just getting started with his promotion. And once we sat down and spoke, they just pretty much took me under their wing. They was just taking care of me for a while. Me and my bro Dennis, and Mike came by and seen me spar, and I was just sparring a whole bunch of pros in the gym, giving them work, and then they put paperwork in front of me, and then ended up signing with Mike, and just signing him was just a little different because I had a big buzz after the USA wrote that letter out to him, and he was just teaching me how to deal with stuff like that, and teaching me, just give me a lot of advice. Mike, I even watch the podcast a lot of times nowadays, and he's full of game. He got a lot of game. He got a lot of wisdom nowadays. He's on point. So just I kind of just soaked in everything he had to tell me, and I'm here now, and I feel like I know the game more than ever. And I'm gonna continue to grow. I don't know everything, but I know a lot. But I'm gonna continue to grow and continue to learn.
Just curious, what led you to go pro rather than try for the Olympics when you were, a lock to compete for the gold medal?
They were taking off headgears and stuff, so I just felt like, why not get paid for it? I was a young kid dealing with, just the outside and being broke and not having anything, growing up in an area where a lot of kids didn't have anything. So I didn't want to get led into doing something dumb. I wanted to box. I love boxing, and I just wanted to, I felt like I could compete with all the top guys. So I just turned pro.
Well, we're glad you made that decision. This bout right here versus Rosario, the winner's pretty much guaranteed a shot at the winner of the unification bout between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano on July 17th. What are your thoughts on Charlo versus Castano? Who do you expect to win that?
I think it's a good fight. I have no prediction right now. I have no prediction.
It's a tough one.
I think Charlo. I'm leaning more towards Charlo, to be honest, but Castano, he comes with it, and I think he's gonna come ready, and it's gonna be a good fight.
Well,
and I get the winner, so
yeah,
I'm excited for that too.
Well, you kind of led me to my last question. June 26th, Jeison Rosario. How does it go down? Do you foresee a knockout? Give us your prediction.
We could beat him up for 12 rounds, or we can knock him out. It doesn't matter. But all that matters to me is that we come out with a W.
Oh, we hear that.
On SHOWTIME.
So we can't wait. Erickson, thank you for taking the time out to speak to us. June 26th, Showtime pay-per-view, State Farm Arena. All the best to you and Coach K, and we'll be there. So we can't wait to see you perform.
Oh yeah, thank you guys.
Last Saturday, history was made in the bantamweight division. Nonito Donaire is champ once again. The Filipino Flash captured the WBC World Bantamweight title with a sensational fourth-round TKO over incumbent Nordine Oubaali. 38 Donaire is now the oldest champion ever at 118 pounds, breaking his own record. He's also a three-time bantamweight champion, to go along with winning titles in 4 divisions. Mike, what were your thoughts on Donaire's performance?
What can you say? The guy's just an absolute legend. You and I both predicted he'd beat Oubaali, but I never expected that, what I saw from a 38-year-old. Has been fighting professionally for 2 decades. He looked like he was in his prime. He was just too big, too powerful, and just too good for a guy who's a 2-time Olympian who'd never lost as a professional. That was essentially a 50-50 fight on paper, and look what Donaire did. He just waited to counter and then just blasted away when he had his chances, particularly with that left hook. Donaire's left hook and Deontay Wilder's right might be the 2 biggest punches in boxing, certainly 2 of the biggest.
Sure.
Anyway, in the end, he beat the hell out of a pretty good fighter. I'll never forget that performance from Donaire. If he wasn't a full-on legend before that fight, he is now.
Yeah, he made it look easy. He was just spectacular. He told us we were going to be wondering how old he is, and I see why. I mean, he was as sharp as ever. He was slick, but his ring IQ, that experience was also on display. Like, it took about a round or so to size Oubaali up, figure out his moves. Then he just went to work. I mean, it was just a fantastic win. Where does this rank among Donaire's victories?
Well, obviously, I went back and looked at all of his record and his victories. He's got a lot of memorable wins.
Yeah.
More than I think all but a handful of active fighters. The first Darchinian fight, which that's the fight that put him on the map, was really special. He stopped the fight with the left hook naturally. Fernando Montiel, I was at that fight. Omar Narvaez, I go on and on and on. The 4 fights he had in 2012 when he was named Fighter of the Year. People might forget that. It was 9 years ago. Honestly, though, I think this one goes to the top, given his age, his dominance in the fight that we just described, and the impact on his legacy. I'll remember the first. Let's just call it a tie. I'll remember the first Darchinian fight, which was, go back and watch it. It was spectacular, and this one the most. So those 2 fights.
Yeah, and the Montiel one stands out to me, just how brutal it was, and it was unification.
Yeah, Montiel was supposed to be a major threat, and look what happened.
Yeah, I thought he was a major threat going into that fight, and he just got destroyed. But this is pretty high up there. I'm with you. This ranks up there with any of his finest wins. What's next for Donaire?
Well, he's thinking big. He says he wants a rematch with Inoue. He wants to unify the 118-pound titles, which doesn't surprise me. I have no idea whether that will happen right away or ever, but it could. Inoue is scheduled to face a Filipino fighter named Michael Dasmariñas on June 19th. A fight he should win easily, at least we think he should win easily. Then a fight between Donaire and Inoue would be attractive to both guys, I think. And then there's John Real Casimero, who fights Guillermo Rigondeaux on August 14th. Yeah. Donaire could also target the winner of that fight, which is interesting for an obvious reason. Rigondeaux outclassed Donaire in a 122-pound fight 8 years ago. Imagine a rematch now. That'd be just crazy. And Casimero wins, fellow Filipino. That's a good story. There are other options for Donaire at 118, but none are as juicy as Inoue, Rigondeaux, or Casimero. So I think those are the 3 guys. I'm pretty sure Donaire wants only big fights at this stage of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if Showtime flew him in and had him seated ringside for Casimero versus Rigondeaux on August 14th. You mentioned it. I mean, biggest battle between 2 fighters from the Philippines since God knows when. If Casimero were to win that, and of course the rematch against Rigondeaux would be insane. Now in the co-feature, super lightweights, Subriel Matias and Batir Jukambaya went to war. What a thrilling battle this was. I mean, Matias controlled most of the fight. He dropped Jukambayev in the fourth, swelled up both of his eyes, was beating him up until Jukambayev's corner stopped it after 8 rounds, giving Matias the victory. But it was a hell of a battle. Mike, what did you think?
That was just a brutal fight, especially for Jukambayev in the end. Al Bernstein pointed out that there was essentially no lateral movement in that fight. They were just in each other's grills from beginning to end, which is what made it so much fun to watch. We were talking about that fight off the podcast, and I thought you nailed it. Matias is reminiscent of Jarrett Hurd, a big, strong guy who punches hard, punches hard in combinations, not just, one punch at a time. I mean, those short little punches inside just busted up Jukambayev, who just couldn't take it anymore after 8 rounds. That was a really impressive performance by Matias. That guy's a beast.
Yeah, he really is. And look, as far as Jukambayev, he's game, skilled, showed hard, but Matias, he's the 140-pound, Jarrett Hurd. He hits hard, the volume punching, work on the inside, even has his hair dyed blonde, like Hurd. Who would you like to see Matias face next?
Excuse me. Do you know who jumped into mind immediately? Gary Antoine Russell. Tell me that wouldn't be fun to watch.
That would be crazy.
Robert East. Sorry,
it's a great fight.
And we're about to talk about Gary Antoine Russell.
Right.
Robert Easter, maybe. I think Easter's boxing ability could make life difficult for Matias. Matias isn't, he's not undefeated. He can be beaten. So I like those 2 fights.
I like Easter. I also like Regis Prograis for Matias. I think that's a bombs away kind of fight, and be interesting to see if Matias can handle that kind of speed, power, and experience that Prograis brings to the table. But 140-pound division, man, is just excellent. And speaking of which, in the televised opener, unbeaten 140-pound prospect Gary Antoine Russell passed his big step with flying colors. I mean, Russell stopped the game Giovanni Santiago in 6 one-sided rounds. Mike, how good is this kid?
I think he's potentially special, and special is a word I try not to use too often. Russell is as fierce and aggressive as anyone out there, but he does it in such an intelligent, efficient way. There's like no wasted energy. His punches are straight, they're well-timed, they're precise, they're hard. There just wasn't anything Santiago could do in that fight. And remember, Santiago had gone the distance with Adrian Broner in his previous fight, which means he's a pretty good fighter. And Russell just tore him apart. I think that says a lot about him.
Yeah, and not just went the distance with Broner, but a lot of people felt he won the fight. Heck, Russell said he felt that Santiago won the fight going in. Look, he looked great. I mean, the boxing ability, the speed, the power, the poise, the body attack, and that knockdown was it was just a thing of beauty. Who would you like to see Russell face next?
Well, he told us on the podcast that he's ready for anyone. I believe him after what we saw. But as you know, I'm a little bit conservative when it comes to moving these guys. I would take it a step at a time. As I said, maybe he fights Matias. Maybe that's not a step at a time. That's a tough fight.
That's a big step up.
Yeah, but I think he could handle that. I'm pretty sure he could handle that. Or maybe he fights Robert Easter. Honestly, I could see him fighting Josh Taylor. Taylor has 18 fights. Russell has 14 fights. So how much more experience does Taylor really have? Now, there is a difference because Russell hasn't faced the same caliber opposition as Taylor, and he's sort of still building his name. So I think he needs a few more victories before he gets a fight like that. But I think the ability is there. So maybe a step. I don't know who his step up is from the fight he just had, but maybe somewhere between the guy he just beat and the guys I just mentioned.
Yeah. I like the Robert Easter fight for him as well. I guess I like Easter against anybody. So many good fights in the 140-pound division. Maybe Adrian Broner. Who knows? Now, also last weekend, unbeaten WBC World Lightweight Champion Devin Haney successfully defended his title. Won a 12-round unanimous decision over Jorge Linares. Haney dominated, I think, much of the fight until the 10th, which that's when he was rocked by a Linares right hand and went back to his corner and wobbly legs. He didn't finish very strong, but still, he controlled everything outside of that. Mike, what was your take on the fight?
I thought the fight was good. You know how I feel about Linares. I think he's an excellent boxer with some pop, even at his age. I think he's really good. I thought and having said that, I think he was a step behind Haney most of the fight. Held his own, but he was a step behind. And then he hurt Haney pretty badly with that big right hand in round 10, which you just mentioned. That punch sort of turned Haney into a survivor of the last 2 rounds. I think Haney was fortunate that punch landed in the final seconds of the round. If it had happened in much earlier, I don't know if he would have survived it. But to answer your question, it was a pretty interesting fight, and it got really interesting late in the fight.
Yeah, it was. And I think it was a good fight for Haney, a good step up. I mean, Linares is a solid fighter. In his prime, he was a very solid fighter. Obviously, he's seen better days, but still had that experience, and he extended Haney a bit. I should add, this was Linares' first loss where he wasn't knocked out or stopped. Now, what did you think of Haney's performance specifically?
Well, you said it earlier. He dominated. I give him high marks. Again, I thought he controlled the fight behind his jab, which I think is one of the best jabs in the business. I'm not going to say it's the best, but I think it's certainly one of the best. And he boxed cleverly, boxed well. He's a great athlete. And I applaud him for fighting more aggressively than most of us expected him to. That was a nod to the fans, I think. He obviously wanted to make a statement. Of course, we can't ignore the fact that he got hurt and held on literally, the rest of the fight. He just held, from that knockdown pretty much to the final bell. And that wasn't. This is where the criticism comes in. And I don't want to be overly critical because overall it was a very strong performance. But that wasn't a good look for him at the end of the fight.
Not at all. And look, no question, Haney has a lot of gifts. I mean, he's fast, he's long, he's young, great ring IQ, excellent boxing ability. He's also a gym rat, so he's always in great condition. However, I think, there are questions regarding his power or lack thereof. Also his chin, since it seems like, as you mentioned, it took him a while to recover from that single shot, which didn't appear that hard. So it was, kind of strange. But, who knows? It was a learning experience for him. Who would you like to see Haney fight next?
Well, as a fan, I like Teofimo Lopez as his opponent to clean up the WBC mess. There's a franchise champion. Lopez is the franchise champion, and Haney's the whatever is below that. But Lopez has to get past George Kambosos first, which I think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's a given. Haney versus Ryan Garcia. I want to see what happens when Garcia lands one of those bombs on Haney's chin. If he can, I'm not sure he can. I think Haney's that good. Haney versus Lomachenko. If Lomachenko beats Nakatani in a few weeks, how about Richard Comey? Luke Campbell. I think Haney and Luke Campbell already are exchanging trash talk on Twitter. I'm assuming Haney stays at 135. If he moves up to 140, then we go over a whole different list.
Yeah, I love the Teofimo Lopez fight, so we can just sort out the whole belt situation and move on with our lives. Right. I really, really love the Richard Comey fight, not just because I'm Ghanaian, but because I think it's an excellent style matchup for Haney. Comey is not going to stop coming forward. He's not the type of person to, and he will test that will. He will test that jaw. He's such a hard hitter.
Absolutely.
And he's a veteran in there. I think it's a great test for Haney. I don't know if I'm Haney's handlers. Do I want to fight Richard Comey? Maybe not. But it is a fight that I would like to see. Now, update in the prediction league. I am 16-2-2, which is just, fantastic. Mike trails by a healthy margin, 14-4-2, well behind me. I don't even hear footsteps anymore.
Hey, I took a step. I took a step up on you the last week. So there's hope. There's hope for me.
There's hope, and we got some good matchups coming up too the next couple of months. So we'll see. But I expect to pull away with my resourceful Nostradamus-like thinking when it comes to these fights.
I bow to you.
Yeah, that's right. I get to talk trash for now. Let's check back in September. But it looks like it's gonna be a fun year. He was a former heavyweight contender himself, and now he trains former WBC World Heavyweight Champion Deontay Wilder, a.k.a. the Bronze Bomber. He is Malik Scott. Malik, first things first, how is everything in Tuscaloosa? I believe you are in Alabama right now.
Yeah, I'm in Tuscaloosa down here. We in training camp. I've been coming down here for some years, man. Probably I think 10 years, 9 years, something like that. I'm sure I'm off somewhere, but it's like my second home. We pretty much locked in right now for camp. Deontay's mindset is in the perfect place where I dreamed it would be for this type of task we have ahead of us. And our preparation is more intact, more than ever. And he's looking better than he's ever looked. And he's, just the mentality that he's at right now is like perfect for like I said, the task at hand, because we got to be on point, and we are on point. We have to be ready, and we are ready. We just fine-tuning and keeping all the T's crossing and all the I's dotted.
Yeah, you kind of led to my next question, because I watched your interview with Deontay on 78 Sports, and the vibe that came off was real intense, really focused. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, absolutely is correct, because in this fight, we're not. I don't consider Tyson Fury and a contender style opponent. I don't consider him, what I would consider a rest. I consider him a form of a major threat, and that's good. I love that I consider him that way, because it makes me push hard as a trainer / teacher. It makes me put the pressure on myself as a trainer and a teacher, because I know what I'm against, and I know what we're against, and I know what Deontay have to deal with. But like I said before, I believe Deontay Wilder is the best heavyweight on planet Earth, and I felt that way even after the loss. I define wins and losses not like most people in this business, and I just believe Deontay Wilder is about to be 2-time heavyweight champion of the world.
Malik, we heard a lot about Deontay being depressed, folks speculating on that. What are your thoughts about people making such assumptions over the past few months?
I have the same statement that I've been saying for a while. If Deontay Wilder has been depressed, then I pray to God someday I've reached that level of depression. Because when I tell you I'm extremely proud of him, not as a fighter that I train, but as someone I consider as my brother. Not the things that go on in the ring that I'm proud of him about, but just all the smart investments he's done, all the lands of acres he has and he's living on, and all the people that he helps, and just everything that he does besides things that go on in the ring. So, and ever since that loss, yeah, of course, he never lost before. That wasn't a happy feeling, and plus he felt as though a lot of things was done that wasn't working in his favor that fight. You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys heard him speak on it. And the depression never was a thing. He was so depressed, I'm going to tell you this. We'll say we got out of the ring at 12:45 a.m., 11:45 a.m. after the loss against Fury. By 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., it was somewhere around there, we was already in motion and putting the play together on what was going on now. He immediately was already planning, like, bro, I want you to, you my head guy now. We knew this from day one after that, that adjustments had to be made and certain things that we wanted to do, just had to be put in place. And it works perfect, because I believe one of the most imperative things between fighter and training is just not the teaching and learning. It's the chemistry that a fighter and trainer to me should have. I know great duos that the teaching and the technicalities is not very up to par, but they thrive so much off of having chemistry with each other. Now, in this case, with my mentality and my experience and my boxing brain mixed with our chemistry, mixed with Deontay Wilder's killer instinct, mixed with everything he's receptive to on learning now, it's going to be a bad night for Fury come this trilogy. It's going to be a very bad night, man, because, like I said, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. I really, truly believe, I know Deontay is about to be 2-time heavyweight champion of the world.
Love it. We also heard a lot about step-aside money, and it seemed the narrative was that money was what Deontay wanted. Could you clear that up for us?
Okay, so they were saying that something about step-aside money. Before that even came up, Deontay wasn't even interested in step-aside money. The type of money that they would have had to pay Deontay, with the mentality he has right now, Bill Gates doesn't even have that kind of money. The number is not even imaginable for what he wants. Tyson Fury in blood, not money. You get what I'm trying to say?
Got
And fighting in this arbitration and being quiet while stones is being thrown at him and dealing with everything on the outside of the ring and constantly building this, going through everything was going through. I'm seeing his face first because he's my brother, so I'm getting to see it. The world wasn't seeing it because once a fighter is in the ring, people seem to forget they life outside of the ring, especially the casuals. They seem to forget they life outside of the ring. And most boxers, especially at that level, that's competing at that level, after they get out of battle, win, lose, or draw, someone has to win, someone has to lose. Deontay lost, but life went on, and we put the play in motion for everything that's going on now. So he never was depressed. Like never. He was focused on the play that we put together for now, and it's materializing now. Me being the head trainer, someone else is coming in, doing this, building a facility. So when he roll out of bed, he's training. When he roll out of bed, he's going into his recovery tank. When he roll out of bed, the nutritionist is right there. This is all the state of a man being depressed because he was preparing for a trilogy that most people didn't even think was going to happen. He never was depressed. It was all bullshit.
Yeah, we kind of figured. How difficult was it though to maintain your silence? I mean, there was so much said from the other side, from the media, from fans, and it was radio silence from Team Wilder. How difficult was it to not want to grab a microphone and say everything you're saying is wrong?
Well, it wasn't hard for us because we knew the truth. And when you know the truth and when you really know what's going on, it's actually fun staying silent. It becomes really a humorous thing because you're looking at a bunch of people talk about things that's non-existent. You're looking at a bunch of people believe narratives that was made up by clowns. You're looking at a bunch of people create narratives that don't even exist. So it becomes an entertaining thing from our standpoint of view because we know the truth. We know Deontay was in the courtroom day in and day out. We know the arbitration was working in our favor. We knew that the date would most likely be July and August. This is stuff that was already been talked about for the last months. Deontay been confident about winning the arbitration ever since it started. This was the frustrating. I don't want to say frustrating. I would say this is, to me, was very peculiar. And me being in this game since I've been 12 years old, I've never seen promoters and fighters promoting a fight when they already in arbitration happen to handle a whole other fighter, to fight a whole other fighter. That lesson goes to show we are in a world where whether something is true or not, people don't even give a shit because a lie, a truthful entertaining lie is more entertaining than the boring truth to people. It would have been quite boring for people to know, Deontay is in court winning, the trilogy career happened. Well, that's not that entertaining. It's more entertaining believing a lie, thinking that Tyson Fury is getting ready to fight Joshua when Tyson Fury is in court with Deontay Wilder and he's losing and the trilogy is happening. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So an entertaining lie, it will always be more appealing than the stone cold truth, and that's how I analyzed that whole situation. It was all bullshit from all parties. I don't care if it was Eddie Hearn, Tyson Fury, it just was all bullshit. And I don't even see how the public or the fans is not on their head about what the fuck was that about.
Yeah.
Why isn't it some type of negative hooray going on about that? They sold a fight to fans that they knew wasn't going to happen. Now everybody is playing the victim. Well, I didn't know. It was Bob. It was Eddie. It was Tyson. Tyson saying it's Eddie. Bob saying it's Tyson. It's all bullshit. The truth is right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The truth is Deontay Wilder is about to be two-time heavyweight champion of the world. This is the truth.
Now,
get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in that 78 Sports interview, I believe you said that, or Deontay said that you guys were friends before you fought and had met during a Klitschko camp. Is that right?
Yeah, we got together. They put us together in Vitaly Klitschko camp when he was fighting Adamic, and we was in Adamic camp. And usually when fighters are fighting the Klitschko, especially back then, you would have 6 or 7 guys that, that's preparing you to get ready, especially getting ready for a battalion. But in this particular camp, it's just like it was ordained. It was just myself and Deontay for 3 to 4 weeks straight, just in camp with Adamek.
Wow.
I've been to tons of camp. I'm known for being in camp, sparring guys, whatever. I've never been in a camp when it was just 2 guys, for one guy fighting for the heavyweight title against a dangerous Vitaly Klitschko. So when I met Deontay, we clicked automatically, man. Like automatically. I've never had a situation like that happen to me, especially with like a fellow boxer and someone that's in my same career. But we clicked. He met my son and my family came up. They loved him. After that, we continued to keep in contact. Then, I was with the Goosens and he was with, Al and everything as he is now. And, the fight opportunity came up. And for that whole 3 months of preparation, we didn't talk and nothing like that. And we all know what the result was. Result was. And our relationship, that didn't deteriorate our relationship, because business is business. Fighting and fighting. Someone have to lose, someone have to win. No matter how bad people may feel I lost, no matter how bad people may thought Deontay wasn't, that fight happened. And that was a road in our life where that happened. Got past that, the relationship remained. It got stronger. Every camp that's been going on, stylistically, my style didn't fit every camp. But for some reason, I believe it's by the grace of God, like I'm saying, everything is ordained, that I was in every camp, always giving him advice. He's always given me advice. Me and JD's always had a very, very tight relationship. JD's is like, blood couldn't make me no closer or anything as much respect as I have for JD's. And Cuz Hill was on board. And at that time, Mark Breland was here, Russ Amber. So it's always been like, Deontay has always had a solid team. And then even during all those years when we would talk, I knew he wanted to bring me in close as far as the team. As far as our relationship, we already was close. But as far as bringing him on the team and giving me the position that he assigned to me now, this is something he always wanted to do. But he was loyal. And he was loyal to a trainer that people were saying he needed a new trainer. He was loyal to people saying he's not learning anything from Mark Breland. He was loyal to Mark when people were saying he has to get another trainer. Now, of course, when the thing happened with Mark, now everyone is saying why he do that to Mark. Get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
The Mark Breland situation is another one on why I'm not too entertained by the opinions of human beings. This is case in point. For years and years and years, right? I look at boxing like this. Boxing doesn't run parallel. It runs like a Z shape. So I'm looking at all of these years, people is talking about Mark Breland pupil needs to get more skills. He needs to work on his feet. He's just sloppy. Only thing he has is power. Now, I'm the type that I would take that as an insult to my teaching if I'm Mark Breland. If someone is saying your fighter cannot fight years after years after years, they basically saying you're not a good coach. Yeah. The minute that everything went haywire after the last Fury fight, everyone was speaking about Breland as if they've been supporting Mark Breland the whole time. Y'all haven't been supporting Mark Breland. Y'all been going behind Mark Breland back to people in the boxing world saying he don't need to be training Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
He's not a good trainer. He talked too low. He's not as passionate as a trainer as he was a fighter. This is things people were saying. And if you know me, if anybody know me, I genuinely have a love for Mark Breland. He paved the way for guys like me coming up, students of the game, when he won the Olympics in '84 and then went on after that and won world titles. You can't discard a man's achievements. And me being a student of the game, the minute I met him and got around him through main events, when I was with main events, when I was fighting in main events was my promoter, I got around Mark. I brain picked him, asked him about certain fights, this, that, and the third. We shared. Then me and Mark, we built our own relationship because we started spending more time in camp together because Deontay. You know what I mean? So I don't respect people that's been constantly talking about Mark indirectly about saying how his pupil has looked so bad over the years. And then when this happened, everyone is like acting like, hey, Mark, y'all been biting the man back out for years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's just the human nature things of it for you. And I just stay on point for shit like that, man, because I know the same people that pat you on your back is 2 seconds from kicking you in your ass. And that's just my logic when it comes to life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Malik, I was thinking about something. So you were at both camps for both Fury fights. How did the two camps compare? Were they similar, or were there differences in those camps?
They were similar, but not too far off. Because one thing, even me and Jay, because me and Jay has always went over game plans together, has always brain kicked each other on game plans and stuff like that. So the first fight and the second fight training camps, they was very much similar. Nothing too much really changed as far as what we had to do. Because if you think, why would we have changed? Because in my opinion, Deontay was putting the pressure, but he was missing a certain amount of shots per round. He wasn't going to the body enough. So if anything, tactical adjustments was made that was taken into the second fight. But then in the second fight, Deontay was dealing with just so many issues, and I'm not even going to get into the issues he was dealing with, and that wasn't Deontay Wilder in that ring. And that's why I'm so confident that he's about to be 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, because once again, I'm the closest eye to him. I'm knowing exactly what he's going through, how he's feeling, the fire that he's willing to walk through, though, because it's the responsibility as a real man and as a real fighter. But that wasn't him in the ring. If that was Deontay Wilder in that ring and gave it and was extremely on point, extremely focused, wasn't feeling bad, wasn't going through all the other things that was happening during that fight, and he still lost like that, I wouldn't feel as confident as I feel right now, but I know that wasn't Deontay, and I know his capabilities. He got one of the strongest minds. Forget boxers. He got one of the strongest minds of any individual I've ever been around. You get what I'm trying to say? That wasn't my brother in that ring that night, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to correct the wrong and become 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. We're already been correcting the wrongs. You know what I mean? All this, the little clips people been saying, I am not saying this just to say this, guys. That shit is light. The stuff he's really doing, the stuff that we do not show, that's all pre-camp stuff. That's all pre-camp stuff. Obviously, you can see the improvements and stuff like that. That's just pre-camp stuff. The stuff he's really doing, I can't wait for y'all to see next month.
Man.
It's going to be a beautiful thing, man. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
We can't wait either. Now, you mentioned that you're a film junkie, and we sort of seen it. I've seen it on your IG and so forth. What are you looking for when you study tapes of Fury? Is it habits, or is it something else that you can share with us?
What I'm looking for, not even when I'm watching Fury, when I'm watching any fighters, the first thing I'm looking at is what are it's not even what their weaknesses are or their strengths are. It's just what do they do in habits. You get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. What do they do from their subconscious? What do they do instinctively? And then I could tell on what they do on things that they drill. And that's all I can say about that without giving away too much. There's a lot of fighters that do a lot of things instinctively, and there's a lot of fighters that do a lot of things subconsciously. Then you have fighters that do things because they practice it and they drilled it tons and tons and tons and tons of times in training camp. And that, to me, is the superior fighter and athlete right there.
Now, John Fury, Tyson's father, said he saw the clips of you and Deontay working out, and he was complimentary, but one thing he did say is that he doesn't understand why you're having such a big man dip under blows and so forth. I don't know if you saw that comment, but what was your take on that?
Okay, I'm gonna say this. As far as a big man dipping under hooks, like, just listen to how that sounds. Like, a tall man shouldn't be able to slide under a hook. It's not like Deontay is trying to be Pernell Whitaker, or we're working on him getting all the way low. But a tall man with 10-ounce gloves on should always just catch a hook or pull back. It's only a few ways to get away from a hook. So you either catch it, which really is a still punch. If your glove is on your head, the pressure of a punch is still going to go through with 10-ounce gloves on. Or you could pull back and weave it, the Klitschko style. So I said the Klitschko style because Vladimir and Vitaly is known for pulling back. Now, when Vladimir fought Anthony Joshua and he hurt him with the hook right hand and knocked him down, when he got up, he did nothing but throw left hooks at Joshua. What did Joshua do? Slipped under the left hooks. Real quick, Lennox Lewis fighting Michael Grant. He can't just block all those left hooks and keep his hand on the phone. Sometimes you got to catch a hook. There's a time to catch a hook. There's a time to slightly get under a hook as a big man. But I will understand what those guys are saying if we was fighting Bermane Stiverne or if we was fighting a short fighter and I had Deontay ducking under hooks. No. We're fighting someone taller than us. We're fighting someone with just as much long arms as us. And anything that we can do to get away from a punch, I have the athlete that can do it all. So they can say, well, it's not like Deontay is going all the way down like we're trying to be extra slick. No. No, if a hook is coming, it doesn't hurt if you can get under a hook. Why not if you can do it?
Yeah.
Every time I hear somebody, my logic with information from so-called experts in boxing is this. So he said, so let's say Peter or Tyson's dad said, or whatever they said about him getting under a hook. But basically the best fighter that comes from their family is slick and moves his head and get under hooks and get back from hooks and everything. So what's wrong with Deontay? Like, you get what I'm trying to say? This shit just doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense because I could show you fighters, tall fighters, getting under hooks. Now the thing is this. Now you have to get under hooks accordingly on who you're fighting. If we're fighting Bermane Stiverne, if we're fighting the David Tour, if we're fighting someone short, Deontay is not getting under no hooks because he would have to give up his front line to go down to get under a hook. But when tall fighters are fighting tall fighters, I think any defensive tactic, it change because of the circumstances of the build of the fighter you're fighting. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Listen to this real quick, guys. I am from the cloth of being in Lennox Lewis training camps, Vitaly Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko, every tall guy, anybody that came through these last 2 decades, I didn't spend time with them. I don't have Deontay Wilder doing nothing that he's not supposed to be doing. That's some shit. That's another narrative that got put out there. You see that? That's how it goes. Something like that get put out there. Well, why does he have him ducking under a left hook? Because he's a tall fighter fighting a tall fighter that leads left hook, and we're not going to catch every left hook to be predictable. So y'all think we're a creature of habit? No, we're going to slide under some hooks. We're going to catch some hooks. We're going to pull back with answering the phone with some hooks. We're going to dip to the left. We're going to feint. We're going to do everything. We're going to do everything with a fighter like that. Of that stature, how Tyson Fury is tall and long and lean, and so that's why I'm so confident that Deontay is about to do this. I'm so confident in my teaching. Like I said before, I've had my career as a child, Junior Olympics, Olympic trials, as a professional. I took my record with 41-2, 41-3, whatever it is. I'm not giving my opinion on my teaching from a place of guessing. All of this knowledge that I'm sharing with Deontay and my son or anybody else I train is coming from the gods of knowledge. It's coming from Fred Jenkins. It's coming from Al Fennell, Al Mitchell, Joe Goosen, Emmanuel Stewart. These are all guys I spent times and years with. I'm not telling Deontay nothing that I'm thinking. I'm telling him things that I know. This is not opinionated teaching I'm doing. This is factual teaching. And I'm very passionate about it. And this is the most passionate job I've had my whole life. My whole life is training Deontay Wilder to beat Tyson Fury in this trilogy to get his title back. And that's saying a lot for someone that has his own career and has done things in his own life. This is my most important job. I take a lot of pride and passion in it, and I can't wait until you guys see how good Deontay is going to look when he becomes 2-time heavyweight champ.
Man, I love it. One thing that we noticed one difference between the first fight and the second fight were the weights, at least on the scales. Deontay weighed 212 for the first fight, 230 for the second. Would you like to see him lighter, heavier? Is there a target?
I would just like to see him in dog shape and whatever, because I look at it like this: when he was 209, he knocked Tyson Fury out, and then Tyson Fury got up and he finished the fight. Then when he was 230. we took the loss to Tyson Fury, and we was dealing with issues in the fight and him feeling weak and other things that was going on as far as the other side and things that was done. It's just no telling. But I can tell you one thing, no matter how much he weighs, Deontay Wilder has the power to knock any heavyweight out from any era. And I say that unapologetically. I said a comment the other day that people ran with, and I gave him some more shit to run with. I'm saying this again. Put him in any era, and he hit any heavyweight from any era, they going to sleep. That's just facts. That's just facts.
Yeah, I think that's one thing most people would agree on.
Right.
But see, you gotta realize you gotta realize, brother, you're coming from a logical, common sense standpoint. You have to realize that common sense is not common amongst most humans nowadays. Me and you are having a conversation where 1 + 1 is 2, and you're like, yeah, of course. Well, a bunch of people will agree with that. No, they would not. Right there. I don't give humans that kind of credit. Yeah. I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I just don't. I just look at it like that's my way of thinking it, but I almost expect casuals to go against it. Yeah. Just if you really think about the things that people believe nowadays, without any facts, it'll change your opinion on how to deal with people and how to observe people. And I've studied people my whole life, so I'm really good with distancing and understanding something or trying to understand someone, but keeping them over there a distance from, because everyone just believe what they want to believe. I could tell from our conversation, we like to believe the truth. Yeah. Some people like to believe entertaining lies because an entertaining lie makes them feel better. That's so fucking sad to say, but that's the world we're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
A made up narrative makes them feel like they have a chance. A made up narrative makes them feel like they're equal with whoever it is they opposition may be. A made up narrative makes them feel like, well, I'm better than this person because I made up a narrative that's not even true to make myself think I'm better than this person. It's crazy out here, man.
Yeah, you said it. Malik, you mentioned the possibility of bringing in another voice to the training camp. Is that still happening, and is there anything you could share with us on that?
It's definitely someone else that we are adding on, and you guys know him. Most casuals should know him, but once again, I'm surprised. I would be surprised if casuals didn't know him. But he's a good guy, and we're definitely bringing him on, and he's going to be a lot of help in the corner.
You can't give us a name, I guess, huh?
I cannot do that.
Okay. So the obvious question is, you obviously know what you're doing. Why bring in another trainer? You just wanted to get another voice?
No, because that's my edge. Because that's my edge as a teacher. I'm not a know-it-all. I'm always seeking to learn. Yes, I know this noble art very, very well, but I don't know it all.
Got it.
We don't know it all. You get what I'm trying to say? No one knows it all. I'm just the only person that really, really means that statement literally and genuinely. And that's what makes me dangerous as far as being a good teacher. I don't know it all. And guess what? This is going to sound even crazy. I don't want to know it all. I want to remain a student forever. I get a kick out of not knowing to learn more. You get what I'm trying to say? I hope.
That's actually really smart.
Where I'm coming from.
Yeah, what I mean? That's really smart. Once you stop learning, you kind of stop living in a way.
And that's in everything, bro. My son is 16 years old, and he thanked me all the time for training him. And I thank him all the time, but he don't even know I'm growing with him. I have a daughter that's 8. I learn from her. I have JD, who's been managing fight. I learn from him. I learn from Deontay. I learn from every fucking body, everybody. So you ask, why are we bringing someone else in? Because none of us know everything. Yeah. And the more weapons we have, the more dangerous this corner is.
If you could, take us through what Deontay's mindset is right now. I mean, or even from that night, February 2020 to now, how did he deal with everything, and what is his mindset right now?
This is going to sound very bold, but it's just kill, in a very surgical way. That's all. Before Deontay, in my opinion, he went out there and would just hit guys. And there's times he set guys up, Ortiz too. A lot of people didn't like that fight, I really enjoyed that fight because Deontay had to show patience to knock out someone that was still tricky, that was still technically sound. He had to show patience to catch Ortiz. So I liked it, that fight right there. But right now, we just got the sauce. We got this. He's very surgical now. I just can't wait for you guys to see it, man. He's very more receptive than ever, more sharper than ever, more faster than ever. Because like I said, he built a facility to become better.
Fantastic.
On his property is a facility he built to become better. You know what I'm trying to say? So we in the forest getting it in, bro.
Malik, some people wonder after what happened in the second fight, how could Deontay possibly make the changes necessary to turn the tables? What are your thoughts on that? Is that a reasonable way to think given what happened?
Say it again. I'm sorry. What's the question?
Some people wonder.
I heard you. I just want to make sure I answer you correct. I want to make sure that I got the right question.
Yeah, some people out there, obviously, they wonder, after what happened in the second fight, they wonder how could Deontay possibly make adjustments, make the changes necessary to turn the tables after such a setback like that. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I look at a setback. I just look at it like basically after a loss, right?
Yeah. Well, after a bad loss, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we'll say after a loss like that.
Right.
Usually, I've seen fighters, those kind of losses actually make fighters never the same again. And you can see it in their spirit. You can see it like when they train. You can see it in their intent with things they do outside of boxing. I'm not going to bring that up. That's my guy. But I've just seen those kind of losses, like, just deter fighters spiritually as well as physically.
Right.
This case, that loss, it made him more vengeance. It made him more vicious. It made him training more. It made him hungrier. Like I said, it made him build a facility. So all he doing is training. His mindset is more stronger than it was before that fight. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know from my own eyes and what I'm seeing.
Perfect.
The minute he took that loss, 3 hours later, he was so upset, not depressed, please, upset, that he began to put the plan in play for everything that's going on now. And I believe that loss and everything that happened with it, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say it's one of the best things that ever happened to Deontay because they woke up a fucking monster.
Wow.
And
Great.
He's very big right now.
So this is a very broad question. Maybe you could answer it in general terms somehow. So what adjustments does Deontay need to make I guess technically in the ring and to turn the tables?
In the Fury fight, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I just feel as though Tyson Fury is who he is. He was a boxer his whole career. The second he came forward, the fight before Deontay, he came forward when the blood was all over the place, and he got overweight. And he put weight on. I'm not even going to say that weight was put on intentionally. I'm going to say weight ended up coming on him, and he realized I can't move how I was moving in that first fight. I'm going to roll the dice and take my chances and just go to this motherfucker. So that means he's either going to come forward or he's going to be boxing. Either way, Deontay has the answers now because we're working on. Obviously, I can't give you guys game plan and stuff like that.
yeah,
but the necessary adjustments are being made, and we still got 2 months, basically. The fuck, man? We still got 2 months, and he's firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be good, man.
Yeah, I'm more excited than I was a half an hour ago. If Deontay were to come back and impressively knock out Fury, that would be one of the biggest triumphs in boxing in many years, I think. I think it would take him from superstar status to kind of like a legend. Have you guys do you guys talk about that? Have you thought about that?
What, as far as after the fight?
Yeah, what it would do, what an impressive victory would do in terms of the way that Deontay's perceived.
Well, my focus really is on what I know is going to do to him. And that's what's making me go so hard in his training. I know the man so well, and I know what really, 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 really bothers him. And him getting this victory in this trilogy is going to do something for him in a positive way spiritually. Now, everything that's after that, I can't even think that far. I'm eat, sleeping, and shitting nothing but Tyson Fury and game plan and strategies, and that's it. Like, that's all I'm doing, guys. It's literally every time Deontay and Jay call me, I'm in front of the laptop and I'm in front of the big screen. Every time someone else called me, I'm going over notes. Every one time someone else calls, I'm training myself. Every time I am really on this because I know what we're dealing with. I'm not naive or ignorant enough to say, oh, Tyson Fury can't fight, man. We're going to fuck him up this time. Yeah, even if we is going to fuck him up like we are, it's not because he's not a dangerous fighter. It's because we are that much better come next month. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Perfect way to end this.
Because I really know what I really know what we dealing with. And to me, when you treat a killer accordingly, it makes them much more easier to handle or deal with. But you have to know who you're dealing with. And I know what I'm dealing with Tyson Fury because I sparred him. We come up together. Like, you get what I'm trying to say? I just know what I'm dealing with. And it's making everyone on this team go so much harder.
Man.
Well, Malik, you just told us how busy you are. So in light of that, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. And thanks for reaching out. And look forward to Deontay being two-time heavyweight champion, man. I hope to see everyone in Vegas.
Oh, we'll be there. We will definitely be there.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Take care.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe. And this week's segment is called A Look Ahead. We've had a lot of great cards this year so far, and we expect that trend to continue. Let's take a look at the next 3 PBC cards and offer our take. We'll start with June 19th. WBC World Middleweight Champion Jermall Charlo puts his belt and undefeated record on the line versus Juan Montiel. It's live on Showtime from Toyota Arena in Maul's hometown of Houston. Mike, give us your thoughts on this fight.
Well, of course, I'm picking Charlo to win the fight. I'm not sure I'd pick anyone in the world to beat Charlo, frankly. That said, I have a feeling that Montiel won't be the pushover that he might seem to be to some people. I'm not comparing Charlo with James Kirkland by any means, but I just liked Montiel's poise under fire and ability to quickly take out Kirkland in their fight this past December, which was his most recent outing. I just thought he looked like a pro in there. I thought he looked really good. And I just don't think he's going to go quietly against Charlo. Maybe he's grown some since he was stopped by Jaime Munguia in 2017. I think this is a solid interim fight for Charlo as he prepares for his next big event.
Yeah. Excuse me. I agree with you regarding him, Montiel growing some since that loss to Jaime Munguia. And I'll get to that in a second. I mean, I've seen some folks knocking this fight, saying it's a mismatch. I have a sneaky suspicion, like you, that it's not. And a lot of people who are calling it that probably haven't seen more than one of Montiel's fights. And to me, there's nothing worse than an uninformed opinion. I mean, I don't think these guys know his story, but hey, look, we never learn in boxing. Anthony Durrell versus Karan Davis, folks said that would be a mismatch. Turned out to be a great fight. Ruiz Arreola, folks assumed the same thing. On and on. Montiel is an extremely tough, hard-hitting fighter. Yes, he was stopped by Jaime Munguia at welterweight, at 147 pounds, a division he had no business being in, which is why he moved up to 160, not even 154, but 160 immediately after the Munguia fight. But, that aside, this fight is going to be explosive. There's a lot on the line for Charlo. He wants to unify at 160, plus he has a lot of big fights waiting for him at 168. Montiel is going to bring the fight to him, and I have no doubts that Charlo will be looking to make a statement, in front of his hometown fans. Really, I expect fireworks throughout that whole card. You've got lightweights Isaac Cruz and Francisco Vargas swearing off. Angelo Leo, former champion, versus Aaron Alameda in a super bantamweight fight. That's a really good fight, and I just think that all 3 are going to surprise in some way. Let's move on to June 26th. Showtime pay-per-view. Atlanta, Gervonta Tank Davis seeking a world title in the 3rd division, facing 140-pound champion Mario Barrios. Mike, what's your take on this one?
As I've said, I love Davis's bravado. It's a bit of a stretch for him to move to 140 pounds and face a world-class guy, which is what he's doing. I think that speaks to Davis's desire to challenge himself and his confidence, which obviously is just through the roof. Making weight won't be an issue, which is a plus for him and maybe even a motivating factor. that's going to allow him to focus 100% on preparing for the fight, which is always a good thing. The question is whether Davis can carry his power to the higher weight class. Yeah. Also, can he take the power of a legitimate 140-pounder? These are interesting things to think about. Meanwhile, this is a great opportunity for Barrios. If he wins this fight, it just completely changes his career. So this is just really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's super intriguing. I mean, Barrios is young. He's an ascending fighter. He hits hard with both fists. Serious advantages in height and reach. And as you mentioned, huge opportunity for him to make a statement on the world stage. And, Gervonta Tank Davis, what can you say? He's a special fighter. It's clear his team believes that, and that's why they're taking this fight. I love the matchup. I love the matchmaking. How do you see it playing out?
Well, you know what? I just want to, my immediate gut reaction is I think that Davis is at a level higher than Barrios, and he is, pound for pound. But then when you add the weight factor, it's like, okay, now I don't really know. I almost always just go with my gut. I think Davis is going to win the fight. I'm not even 100% sure he's going to knock out Barrios, because of the weight thing. Right. I just don't know. But I think Davis's skill level is really, really high. And I'm guessing that he will carry a lot of his power up to the higher weights. So I'm picking him to win the fight. But the weight thing and the fact that Barrios is a damn good fighter, these are factors that you just can't ignore. And that's what makes the fight so interesting.
Yeah. I have to think that Tank is getting some great sparring at Mayweather Boxing Club, and he's going to be 100% ready for the size difference. But one of the things that you said earlier that sticks out is, can he take a shot from Mario Barrios? Can his chin handle that? Because if Tank Davis can take a clean shots from Mario Barrios, he's going to be tough, not just for Barrios to beat, but anybody. Period. I mean, so this is a huge test for him, but we can't mention this card without discussing the fantastic co-feature, WBC 154-pound title eliminator between Erickson Lubin and former unified champion Jeison Rosario. Mike, before we move on to the next fight, real quick, do you have any thoughts on, I think, one of the better matchups this year?
I really like that matchup for this reason. I think Lubin is on a roll, since he was stopped by Jermell Charlo. I think he's put that way behind him in his rearview mirror. I just really like what I see from him now. I think he's got title holder written all over him. And Rosario's coming off that, disappointing loss. So it'll be interesting to see where these guys are when they fight. I have a lot of respect for both guys. One guy's hot, one guy's not, which is the point I'm making. It kind of makes it as an interesting factor. But I like both guys. I think on paper that's a great fight, and I think it's going to translate to a great fight in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's going to be. I think we're going to see a knockout in that fight, no question. Someone's going down, and it's just a question of who. Now, another fighter facing an interesting test is WBA interim 130-pound champion Chris Primetime Colbert. Colbert returns to the ring July 3rd against former world champion Yuriorkis Gamboa. It's also live on Showtime. Mike, give us your thoughts on this one.
Well, you know how I feel about Colbert. I think he's one of the best young up-and-coming fighters, on the planet. Super talented guy. He could probably compete with anybody right now, but I'm glad to see him fight a guy like Gamboa, who's sort of like a high-level, quote-unquote, opponent at this point. Yeah. The Cuban he's sort of become a guy you go through to get to the top. Tank Davis took him out in the 12th round in 2019, and Devin Haney outpointed him by a wide margin this past November. Now it's Colbert's turn. I think this will tell us something about Colbert. It's a step up. It is a step up in opposition, and I'm sure he wants to make a statement. I'm sure he wants to say, I was able to do to Gamboa what Davis and Haney did, if not, more. I'm looking forward to seeing Colbert fight again, but I'm going to say that. Forever, because I just like watching the guy fight.
Right. He's just a joy. I mean, this might be one of my favorite fights on the Showtime schedule, and I think perhaps the most slept on. I say this because Gamboa still has speed and power. We did see that in those two fights. And we saw a different kind of fight from Colbert the last time, one where he stood his ground and fired off combinations in the face of getting hit and return fire. I think doing that against any version of Gamboa, especially an experienced one, is dangerous. So I'm wondering, is Colbert going to fight Gamboa like he did Jaime Arboleda, or will he box and move, sort of like how Devin Haney fought Gamboa? Now, when Tank fought Gamboa, he got touched up a little bit. He took some shots, and Gamboa has been fighting out of weight at 135. He now returns to his division, 130 pounds. So, to me, it's a dangerous fight, and could be the sleeper. Or maybe we see another terrific performance from Chris Colbert, and he stamps himself as the guy at 130 and perhaps the sleeper in those lower divisions. Either way, we can't wait. We can't wait to see these cards again starting June 19th on Showtime. Jermall Charlo versus Juan Macias Montiel. We want to thank you guys, of course, for tuning in to another episode. As always, be sure to like and subscribe and comment wherever you listen to us. And be sure to check back in next week for more boxing talk, more interviews right here on the PBC Podcast.